I I'm Taosheng, and currently I'm located in China, uh, in the hometown of Panda. Today I will introduce about our work and the product we built, and this product is much related with decentralized science. I have some conversation with some people in the community, and we have a long experience in the Web3 and blockchain related technical stacks. Okay, Jiaozi FS. If you go to our GitHub, what is Jiaozi FS? The name of Jiaozi maybe is difficult to pronounce. Jiaozi pay tribute to the world's earliest paper money, soon destiny Jiaozi. It is the first paper money in the world. It has a long history. Okay. But Jiaozi FS is a Git-like version control file system for data lineage and data collaboration. Basically, if you think the currently the very popular AI and AGI, with the complex interacting and ever-changing machine learning models in the software systems, developers might easily lose the track of which version of a model was used in production, and how exactly it was trained, creating challenges. It created very big challenges in understanding what went wrong and what problems occurs. And it can be very difficult to reproduce the problem when the models are constantly updated, or if different users see different results in the A/B testing and the A/B experiments. So a lack of versioning, provenance, tracking, and reproducibility make it very difficult to build a responsive AI, to build the accountability for the AI and machine learning. That is why we want to build the Jiaozi FS. It's a Git-like version control, brings order to the data size choice. That is the backgrounds of the Jiaozi. Because we have some history on the IPFS and the Faircoin system. If you want to ask the relationship between Jiaozi FS with IPFS, maybe somebody know IPFS. The relationship is Jiaozi FS is a version control layer over IPFS or over Web3 data layer. It brings the version control features to the IPFS. IPFS could be used as a backend block object storage with Jiaozi FS. But Jiaozi FS built the CID, but Jiaozi FS leveraged the CID of the IPFS to build the data products and research for research objects and the data products. For the features of the Jiaozi FS, the main purpose of Jiaozi FS is built for the versioning, the provenance, and the reproducibility. I want to give a quick introduction about the version control and the provenance and the reproducibility. Versioning models and code can frequently updated to accommodate the drift experiment mentioned. It is crucial for system to ensure the constant deployment of models and code versions. For effective debugging, developers often need to pinpoint the specific version of the models and the data size, and which is responsible for the certain decision and may seek to retrieve or recreate these versions. For the provenance, when issue arise with specific models, developers need to identify problems in the training data size for these models. They may wish to understand what's the data size utilized during the training and potentially trace the origin and the modification of the data size, along with the responsible parties. And for the reproducibility, that is related with the deterministic. Developers are likely to interest in comprehending the impact of non-determined and the extent to the which models and the predictions can be reproduced. Reproducibility is also crucial for the data science and for the experimental evaluation and academic findings. So the main use cases for the Jiaozi FS is for the data science with the data lineage. So here I want to, here is the source code of the Jiaozi FS. I wanted to give a big picture and architecture of the Jiaozi FS. We have built a UI for the Jiaozi FS. You can use a cloud deployment to try to use this Jiaozi FS without installing. But we have the SDK for CLI and other applications to integrate with. So all these CLI and the Jiaozi FS UI are built based on the Jiaozi FS API. In the inside of the Jiaozi FS, we have a different version of the data size, including the directory and the files. And we have built the Git-like operations over the data size. For example, new repo, upload, branch, and tag, commit, and download. You can download a data size as a car file. That means IPFS or research objects data size, a format of data size. And we support many different kinds of backend storage. For example, Azure S3, IPFS Filecoin, and local memory and Google Cloud Service. That is the architecture of the Jiaozi FS. We have UI of the Jiaozi FS. I want to demo how to use it in a UI. Here is you can use this link to open the cloud deployment of the Jiaozi FS. Here I have created a repo for this demo. This is my repo. This UI is quite similar with Git, but Jiaozi FS is built for data. We have some features. We have some features very similar with Git, but it's totally different with Git for code. That is Git for data and Git for data pipeline. Here I want to, you can see if you can create a repo for data size. I have created some files 20 minutes ago. For example, you can see this is a picture of red panda in the main branch. If you see the branch, you can see different kind of branch. That is the main branch, V1 branch. If you go to the V1 branch, there is another version of this picture. Oh, this is V1. This is a branch. Let me see the main branch. Oh, the main branch, we can see two pictures. The first is V1. The second is V2. Okay. Let me check the version, the branch. Go to the main branch. Maybe I mistake the names. Oh, this is a V2. Let me create another branch. For example, V2, language V1. Then I can, because I create the V2 based on the main branch, upload. V3. Then I can commit V3. You can see this another version of V3 Red Panda. If you want to download the data size, you can see here. If you want to download the format of compatible with Web3, for example, IPFS, car fares, you can download these car fares. That is basically that is the usage how to use the Jiaozi FS in the UI. All these operations could be used could be called by API or use our SDK to integrate with the machine learning pipeline. For example, here is a pipeline. We don't use the UI. We just call the SDK API of GZFS, the face detection and the recognition inference pipeline. Because this you can run it offline, but it is very long. I will jump to the how to call the API for the data uploader, and here is we have a repo for GZFS data loader, and we have a GZFS client Python. How to use the GZ data loader to GZFS. And if you wanted to build here is the data loader. If you want to build some pipeline over GZFS, sometimes you need to customize your pipeline, and maybe we need to build some dedicated SDK for you. And currently we are building with some computation pipelines. I mean, we are integrated with some computation pipelines, for example, the backyard and some Web3, Spark and other computation framework. That is how to build a pipeline over GZFS. You can refer the details offline. Oh, I see some questions in the chart. Uh,
I can pop them out as soon as you're done talking.
okay. Um, Basically, that is all the content, the overview, and the architecture, and how to the UI, and how to build the pipeline over GZFS. Um, I didn't go to much more details about the code, and other use cases. You can refer um, how to leverage the version control data size and the version control piping data pipeline for data science, for AI and machine learning, and even for other data hub and data collaboration and data ops. Uh, and let us go through the questions and let us discuss.
Sure, yeah. Um, so some of these are like clarification questions on the project itself. But so like one was, is this connected? Like, is the way that you're thinking about this almost GitHub-like, where it's like every time you update your data, you push it. And in that case, like, are there costs of pushing to pushing to file or pushing to IPFS? And then how are those currently being resolved?
Uh, I think that is a very good question. I think that is about 2 or 3 questions.
Mm,
Uh, how often currently uh, how often do you want to update I mean commit the data size to the repo because that is uh, we maintain the data size for each commit is like a database ACID, you know. Um, that is how often I think that is depends on the application and the users. You decide how for example, you want to commit the changes and the modifications to the data size and make sure you want to have a version of the data size and kind of snapshot or kind of uh, integrity of one work or task, or you want to commit the data size. Mm. But about to IPFS, because IPFS is it's complicated to to integrate with IPFS. IPFS is a good different version and different implementation of IPFS. One version of IPFS is for data syncing. If you want to build a data network of data hub or versioning data network, a data network of AI models, AI data size, you can leverage the IPFS, for example, IPFS implementation Iron project to sync the data size across the global network. And the second is if you want to um, use the IPFS as a backend data size, backend storage. For example, you want to leverage the global network, IPFS global network. You can store the data to the IPFS network. That is, we basically use IPFS in this scenario. We basically use it as a object storage. We will store the data to make sure that the data security to stable and to synchronize the data to the IPFS real time. That could be very slow to make sure you don't lose the data. But I think that depends on how do you want to configure your backend storage. Maybe you want to use some very high performance S3 or other local storage. But that depends on what benefit you get from IPFS. I think the data syncing is very good. But for the backend object storage is not so good as based my knowledge. And mm, I might answer your questions.
Okay, I think so. Um, Trying to get like to exactly the core of it with IPFS. I think a kind of a follow-up question I had related to this that might clarify a little bit of what you're saying is like, so right now, as far as I understand it, I can upload a CSV to GitHub. I can upload the fact that I changed my code to maybe update the data and I'll upload maybe a new file of data. And so for me, that seems relatively versioned. I know that you're right now uploading to IPFS for Jiaozi, but what are the other changes that you're representing? So it's like because like GitHub is focused for code. So how does your focus on data like change the way you're processing this information?
Oh, that is totally different, especially for the big data size.
Mm,
For the scale, it's kind of for the scalability of the for petabytes, even more bigger data size, we have some uh, some features leverage the content addressable data, content addressable capability. For example, we duplicate some data size. If you just change some small bit of your data size,
mm.
it will duplicate
Okay.
and save your data, save your site, uh, make sure the data size uh, don't have a double and triple your capacity, and that is one important. Another is for big data, we support the very big data, especially for for the traditional Web2 big data, a
Right.
totally new design for data. And some features in for code, we don't need that. Especially, I want to add words about the research objects and the data products. You can think of that you deploy the data product as you build the code. Uh, the data products, how to build data products. Currently, there is no tools like Git for the organization to build the data products for their team, and even for the data economy in Web3 or Web2. You want to sell your data, sell your research object or models. So that is why we support um, the IPFS Kafir as one potential format of research object or Web3 object. Um, that is different with the code. We need a standard format for the data products to be accepted by the community.
Okay, okay. So you specifically allow the ability to kind of switch the formats of the data such that it fits in with IPFS. How flexible of this, and then we can go down a different line that like Eric like put something in chat, but like something I think about all the time is fair data or like so it's findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. And the concept of that, right, has two halves to it. One is there's a half of the community defines the standard, and the other half is the standards is implemented in the technology. So in your technology, like how you're mentioning these different data formats. How flexible are those data formats? Like if my community says this is the requirements I have for my data files, can I implement that in Jiaozi?
For the flexible and the our our with our understanding, maybe I can get your feedback. That
Right.
is why I come here.
Yeah.
We basically we think we can export the data from this hierarchy of the data size.
Right.
you can export the each version and each file as you if you want to release, like like the code you if you want to release as a research object or data product.
Right.
That is our planning, but currently we just support the dataset level download export. But the ideal next step we are going to implement to for each data size object, each object you can download and you can access as a as an object you can publish, you can
Mhm.
release. For the importing, I'm thinking for the importing the scenario of the there are many different kinds of scenario for the data importing and data formats.
Right.
So based on my understanding, based on my knowledge, I think we need to support some common cases. For example, we will deploy some SDK for you to easily to importing some data formats, for example, CSV
Yep.
and some other formats.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, all right. So one thing that like I asked a little bit and like it relates to Eric, what like you responded in a really helpful way in the chat, where you're saying like there's several tests for data, like and if it's made up. So I think my initial thought when I see what you're doing, Taosheng, is like, oh, um, we are like it's a way of tracing if we've faked our data, or it's a way of tracing the types of changes that are happening. Um, and then Eric, you had mentioned a couple of things around like Benford's law as a way of testing for made up data, or I'm thinking of like, and you said like for Excel files, like the fonts change, or in Excel files, the thing that they have is like, oh, this cell changed by this person. Like there's kind of this version control. And it's very like it represents the changes that happened. So I'm wondering if you have these capabilities in this platform as well, Taosheng, like with what you're doing, can you see this diff of like the differences in the data, and then you're like, oh, it seems like somebody made something up here. Like there's not maybe there's not a related change in the code, or there's not something like that.
Uh, uh, Let me re-put make sure I understand your question correctly.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
can I understand your question about the structure data size, like database tables, like Excel, columns, uh, version control for this kind of data size? Or do you mean that?
So the question I'm asking is related to like quality control.
Quality
So
control.
like when you have data and then there's like version 1, version 2, version 3, like what are the types of information that you might need to be able to test if this data is made up, or if it's like Eric put in chat again, like it could detect p hacking or something like this.
Oh, can we just have if you're familiar with Faircoin Ecosystem, Hyper 30, uh,
Yeah.
Hyper 30. We have some collaboration with them about the liquid certificate. I can share for one moment. Let me find one document. That is what we are building. Maybe you are very interested in. One moment. Uh, it's kind of it's kind of uh, mm, I will share this internal document with you, but I think it's okay. Um, we will add this, verified tag to the data size and show the path, the trust path of the versions. Is this helpful for your concern?
Maybe I kick that over. Eric, if you're able to unmute in chat, like I don't know exactly the types of things that you would need to check this. Is the thing that he's showing helpful?
Yeah, can you make it a little bigger?
Yes. We are building for the liquid certificate is for the history, for the versioning of the data size, we will build a trust path for the repo.
Okay, so this is a form of so what goes into the trust score? How is a repo considered trusted?
It is not trust. It's not about the score. It is kind of notarized of your versioning history. That is a kind of snapshot of your versioning, your history. I mean the dataset history. It
Okay,
will.
so it validates, it validates cryptographically that no one else is inserting data, that the researcher itself is the one that's updating the repo, or at least people who have been approved are updating the repo. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's somehow like the blockchain features it is immutable for your history. We will make kind of a snapshot for your update, who and what updated to the data size, and you can't change the history. If you made some changes, you can't change the history.
Okay.
I mean, that could be inbuilt by the system. So that could be add a verified tag to this repo for the liquid certificate applications. I think that is leverage borrow the idea of the blockchain to bring the immutable features to the dataset history.
Right.
It is notarized history.
I have two questions, or actually now it's one question. I was going to ask about visibility, but I can see public and private. The question is, can I see whether data has changed, whether it's the model outputs that's changed, or whether it's code that's changed? Can I query or can I filter on those different data types, or no?
Currently, no. But we can, I think that is easy to add some features to filter the fair tabs and the diff to diff the changes and filter based on changes and based on types. But currently,
Yeah,
no.
So I'd be interested in knowing how many different times a model has been run on the same data, for example. And this goes to the test for rejecting the null hypothesis. So the more trials that you run on data to explain it, the higher the standard should be to reject the null hypothesis. And as an outsider, trying to assess the validity or the reliability of an experiment, I would be interested in knowing how many times they try to get something significant out of the same data. So how many different models were they running to get the result that actually led to the paper?
Yes, yes, I agree with you. But I think that is depends on how frequently, how not on the models built based on the same data, not on the same data. It's on the small change of the data. You need to change. If you want to make an experiment, you need to change 1,000 version of the same data size. then you build 1,000 data models output, and then you can evaluate the output of the models. So it is not on the same data. It's how frequently on the same data. It's how frequently of the data, the changes of the data, the possibility of the changes around the data size.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. I guess another like kind of conversation or thought that relates to a lot of this. It's kind of similar but kind of adjacent. But right now at labs, we are kind of encountering this difficulty, and I think IPFS in general is encountering this difficulty of like, how do you incentivize or support very high quality data or high quality work, as opposed to just like you can put data on a data chain, which can lead to lots of not just shady things, but like this is a big crossover with science, right? Like if you're working with science and you're working with blockchain, it's like there's this gap of making sure that there's really high quality science going on here and not just, oh, there's no barriers anymore. I can drop anything I want on this. So I'm wondering, how are you thinking about that at all? I was wondering specifically because you named it after the first paper money. So I was wondering if you're thinking of incentive mechanisms with with your name there.
Yeah, very good question. I think not this question is not only for me. I think other people here could discuss it. About almost everyone in the AI industry are talking about the quality of the data. Everyone talk about the quality of data quality, and especially for the AGI and for the popular of the last AI in this year and the last year. But how to incentivize? I think one possible way or one missing part in Web3, maybe not only in Web3 or Web2, that is decentralized Hugging Face. I mean, in Hugging Face, there is no incentivize for the end users, especially for the model and the data size uploaders. They don't get any incentivize from the network, from the success of Hugging Face. But that is very, very, very good case for the Web3. If we can build a mechanism for the crypto economic to incentivize the uploader of the models and the builder of the models and the data size, that could be very, very interesting. Like to build a Web3 data size layer for the industry. That is my thoughts on that. There's some work already. I know some team are doing similar things about the data size, making sure the quality of the data size in AI plus Web3.
Yeah, definitely some work happening here.
So
then,
sorry.
No, I was just gonna.
Please.
You can go.
Okay. GCFS just we provide a tool for this area for people to not to build a data size not only for data quality but also for data collaboration. And in Web3 for the internet, for the web, the most important thing is the collaboration. We can build a tool. Git is we can bring the Git gives features to data that is we want to build. We want to bring the collaboration of Git to the data. That is very important. I think from another things that is very important for data quality.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that because I've talked to the Filecoin Green folks, which is what you were talking about with this path, right? So I'm wondering, just related to this, there's that sense of being able to trace where the data came from and have a really good sense of the quality of that based off of these social networks, right? I think there's some gaps here where, for example, there's been a lot of scandals recently where very, very trusted academics have been messing with their data, right? So I think there's like two fraud angles. One, like, don't bring up, like, how do you eliminate the bots who are going to be making a bunch of stuff up because they want to and they can get incentives from putting stuff on. And then there's the humans who we've got a whole social layer to build out. And having this traceability on the data, and maybe being able to run some of the things that Eric was talking about with like tests for made up data on this, like these experiments, or being able to adjust the calculations that you'd be making based off of how many experiments you've run. I think another one that I'm very interested in is like recognizing that like a lot of models, AI models specifically, are quite biased based off of the set of data that they have. So it's like we can trace, oh, you are only on this data set. What are the types of data sets we could inject in to maybe mitigate some biases there? I think it's super interesting to see the different types of traceability that you might be able to gain from this. I think there's like, I'm trying to think of gaps around, like, I can do all of my model changing on my computer and never commit until I decide it is sufficient, and then that traceability disappears. So there's some amount of a social work to do as well around high quality scientific practices and being able to trace all of that, which is, yeah, maybe outside of the scope of the project that you're building. Seems like a whole ecosystem development thing. Related to this though, or kind of backing up a little bit, I think we've been like bombarding with questions related to what this could be, but you were mentioning that you had some things that you wanted to get feedback on. So do you have questions for us or things that you want to like bring up, things that you're working on right now?
Thank you. Thank you. I think I want to get your feedback. You just asked a very good questions about the level of the export the data size. I think that is very, very important and very interesting to like people to collaborate on the data size and make some data bounty over data size and make a decision which objects you want to publish, which object you want to release. So that is very, very important. But I'm not sure in your real use cases, is there any requirements for that? If you have a real use requirements, we will build for that for you. And another is about the how to help the data science peoples or users who are, for example, data scientists in the industry or in the academic industry. I mean, we want to help them to build some real useful product. If you have some people who are interested in the versioning, data versioning, to help them to build some to accelerate their research, that is very helpful for us.
Right. Okay. So I might kick this over to either Philip or Levi. You're both people who I perceive as working with a lot of data. So I think do you guys have any understanding of the requirements you might have for a versionable data publication system? If either of you are available to talk.
Yeah, we have some web. Sorry.
Sorry, I was asking Philip or Levy because I haven't worked with a lot of big data. So there's like two other people, and I was just asking them if they had criteria for the data, like if they could answer your question, basically.
I think Philip said he had to go, but can you repeat the question? I was like distracted for just like 1 minute.
Yeah. Taosheng, do you want to repeat the question you were asking? He said he was out for a little bit, but I think he would have good ideas on like the criteria he has for data.
Okay, Levy, thank you, Levy. I want to know some people who have real requirements on the data versioning, especially for the data scientists, for the research people who need the who need a tool to accelerate their work. I mean, if you know some people, some team working on that, please help to introduce to me.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I mean, I need it just implicitly for the work that we're doing, basically, because computational reproducibility is it's probably one of the easiest. Well, I don't want to say it's one of the easiest, but it's like one of the most natural things you would want to reproduce because it's computation and it can be run by computers, but at little to no human cost. There might be some like electricity costs, but it's relatively low cost overall to replicating computations. So it's definitely something that I personally need. In terms of like bigger organizations, I mean, certainly like anything that is computed that has like impacts on, for example, public policy, maybe like climate change simulations, economic simulations. Yeah, those are the first thing that comes. Those are the first things that come to mind.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Can we discuss this? I mean, I will ask my help offline with some more one-to-one office hour talking, office hour discussion.
Sure. So what would that look like? As in like set up another call, or just we can take it off like offline onto the like forum chat that I put in the announcement to.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just trying to clarify, like as in you're saying we should go talk more in the Discord forum?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That works for me. And I think something that might be helpful is like because a couple of people from our team who I think would have um extensive ideas and opinions on what like how data should be published and things like this. Um if you asked the questions that you had at the end into this forum chat and then potentially tagged I can send you the tags in the Discord forum of the people who would have good opinions on this. And we can keep the conversation going as well.
Okay. Okay. I want to go through all the questions in the chat. Maybe I didn't answer very good during the during the conversation. I will get back offline in the Discord forum.
Of course. Yeah. So I can maybe I'll copy all of these over and I can send them to you privately as well, if you want to think about them more.
And I appreciate if you can help to give me more feedback and give us more requirements on this data versioning and provenance.
Of course. Yeah. I'll try and make sure to loop in the right people who would have good intuitions on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. It was so helpful to see, I think especially the UX that you represented. It was like, okay, this is what you're doing. It clarified it a bit in my head. And it's helpful to start thinking through the use cases that you might have and how it might like differentiate itself from other projects going on. So super excited to have had you here and can't wait to like stay in touch.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. See you.